Hey, hey.
Hello, Dracula. Hello, Sonic community. How are you all doing today? Welcome to the jungle, baby. We're back.
Dude, I like the new. I'm guessing you finally got your computer back, and I guess you got a new haircut.
Yeah, I got, fresh look for a fresh new location, fresh new show, dude. This thing, we're taking it in a whole new direction this time, I think, Drac. We're going to be serious this time on the GMSONIC podcast.
Time to be serious, huh?
Yeah, it's time to be serious. Oh, look, we got guys. Good morning, guys. Make sure to check our we are going to check it out. Check out the latest governance proposal from Beets. Their latest proposal. We're going to be talking about that. What else are we going to be talking about, Drac? We're going to be talking about new hires potentially. We're going to be talking about this recent market bounce.
Yeah, we'll start there, I guess, before we just get into all the really fun stuff. It was kind of feeling like all was lost. We were going into the cursed cloud. This is the Bitcoin Weekly, of course. Managed to hang in there right above the cloud. So I feel like, we had a little bit of a reversal. I guess it started yesterday morning. So I think that we just had another flush out, basically. This was like a little different than the usual. A lot of the things that have happened in the market have just been like reactions to bad announcements, macro stuff. But it's been a long time since we just had like a good old longs flush out. And looking at everything, it kind of feels like that's what happened. There was just a ton of liquidations. Bitcoin was slowly kind of bleeding out. So, of course, the rest of the market was taking a hit. Then, out of nowhere, they decide, hey, now would be a great time to flip it and liquidate a bunch of shorts, which they did. So here we are. It's like, I don't know the math off the top of my head, but I would say Bitcoin was, 30% or so down from its all-time high. To me, it's like, it feels like, of course, there's always room for more pain, but it kind of feels like the pain is over right now.
Yeah, I feel like it seems like it's bottoming out, but you never know. I was kind of pleased. I thought we had entered the Ichimoku cloud. I thought we were inside it, and I thought we were just going to teleport straight to the other side. But it does, and I was shorting with that in mind. Okay, earlier this week, and it was profitable before you ask. But now I think we are kind of bottoming out, right? At least it's hit a level of volume. Sure, if we threw on that gator right now, we'd be seeing a lot of volume here at this level.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm gonna switch over to Ethereum actually real fast.
This is what I'm playing. This psycho token.
You've been, yeah. This is like the daily, not the weekly, but kind of seeing something similar here. Like, ever since October 10th, it's just been like try to rally, get slapped down. This is kind of like the first time since, over a month. So I guess like about 5 weeks that we've even kind of like crept above the moving average here. This is a daily candle. So what I'm looking for right now is like a good close above this right here. We're still oversold. So to me, that like looks like a nice potential reversal. On the lower time frames, I like to play more like mean reversions. So I don't know. We get a nice reversal here. There's a lot of upside. I feel like maybe nature is healing.
Speaking of like upside, catalyst to the upside for kind of the majors right now, talking Ethereum, Bitcoin. Bitcoin has kind of had like some real negative ones recently, right? Lots of anxieties about micro strategy, having to sell Bitcoin to cover dividends.
Mm-hmm.
Ethereum, on the other hand, seems to be kind of generally positive. Am I wrong in this? It seems like people are pretty excited for the latest updates to Ethereum. People are they're still a little confused on whether or not to build on L2s or mainnet, but
yeah. No, I mean, I think that we watched that and we covered it on the show as well, that you started to see, or actually as I got clowned on, I said, read the back pages of the newspaper. I didn't mean like the area where there's like hookers and stuff. I meant like track the stories that are smaller as they become, So yeah, like, so we started to cover this where it was like you were starting to see this little shift in Ethereum, starting to talk about L1 again. It wasn't about L2s anymore. Everything was about like, like we're gonna upgrade L1 to being competitive with all the other like high speed, low gas L1s. And it was a major shift from being just like, oh, we're gonna be the security layer and we're gonna make all our money from, I guess in a way it's licensing, like for L2s. So yeah, I mean, Ethereum, I feel like it's interesting to see that even though L2s take up so much TVL, especially in DeFi and stable coins and everything else, it feels like there's like a positive sentiment, for Ethereum in general. And it's kind of been a while, it feels like. They had a solid year of people just, always talking shit, dunking on them, whatever, like, so yeah, I mean, I've actually been kind of keeping my eyes on Ethereum for the first time in a while in terms of like perps. But as I always say, you get Ethereum under $3,000, you just buy it. It's easy money. And that always works out if you're doing spot. So
Yeah, I think at least for now it seems to be holding true. I think how far did we crash like earlier this year, or was it late last year? I think Ethereum hit like $2,000 or something like that.
oh yeah, it was
Hit like
low.
18 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, but it is showing some decent shines of strength here. I hope it can continue the momentum up. I mean, to me, I think kind of a lot of people are seeing this. There is like the expectation or the hope that this was like we do the psychology of Wall Street thing, that like that first dip before that we hit super high and then it comes down. Everyone's always hoping for one last pump. People are hoping this is not a relief bounce, but I guess we're going to see here over the next couple of weeks if we're going to get a Santa rally proper or not. I would caution everyone, stay frosty out there. Keep it tight on your leverage and your stops.
I just feel like everything is like way oversold. The volume is coming in. The shorts have been liquidated. I don't know. I feel like we're on good. We're like in a good spot, like we're on track for a Santa rally here, but who knows? We're still just going to continue with this just back and forth in terms of constant macro announcements. Why don't we move on to the S chart? Similar move as Ethereum here, I guess, just because we're just having to perform at the mercy of first Bitcoin, then Ethereum. You got to go down the ladder here. First, little bit of green here. I like seeing that it looks like hopefully this upper 9 cent, 10 cent area is like the end all be all support. We held it here for a few days despite some nasty wicks. Finally getting some green here. Still really oversold. Yeah, I mean, kind of a similar thing if you're playing it like on a mean reversion kind of thing. There's a lot of upside here if we can catch a bid. So
yeah. So like, all right. So like, how can we identify if we're nearing or have hit the bottom? You think we kind of got to grind against it a little bit, or would we be looking for a very sharp V-shaped recovery? You think, Trek?
I think what I'm imagining, what I think when I look at all this is what I would like to see is more like consolidation and like a wind up. Of course, just blasting out is always nice, but if we start to see, if we get a few more daily candles in this area and we're kind of just bouncing around, to me, that signals that buyers are saying like, yeah, this is the bottom. So I prefer that kind of movement over maybe tomorrow there's just a green candle that, shoots out and then immediately gets eaten by sells, because there's something that like we're also going to have to combat, which I'm sure everybody loves to hear, that there's yet another obstacle we're going to have to deal with. But when when something is taking a beating, the only way to show strength is to break out of the cycle and repeatedly have green candles and repeatedly go against the sellers that are going to definitely sell any major pump for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So there's still levels to the test, like, because that's what happens when you get sold down to this kind of level. I mean, every meaningful pump is probably going to get sold on for a while until you survive some of those sell-offs on the pumps, but you keep going up. Then people start to believe, start to buy. They think, okay, people are done selling. So yeah, I mean, we're looking at the infancy of that, hopefully.
It's an uphill battle.
Yeah, it's definitely it's kind of like what we've talked about before with creating that flywheel for your chain. It's like it is an uphill battle once you lose that momentum and that mind share and that belief that, somebody's going to be able to buy the token and sell it much higher later.
Yeah. Tell me if this mental model is accurate or tracks with what you're kind of thinking, Drex. So it's like, people talk about, when we're climbing up, resistances flip into support. It's kind of like the opposite when you fall down. I think in this type of pattern as well, where you're kind of falling down the stairs, where it's like it's the supports turn into resistances on the way up.
Yeah.
Because people are they're scared, they want to break even. They just want to recoup initial investment and get out.
Yeah. I mean, because that's, everybody's seen the memes before, right? Where it's like, please just let me get back to negative 30%. You know what I mean? It's like that's what people have to deal with initially, is people just being like, if I can just, break even, or if I can just whatever, I will get out and not look back, So yeah, I think that's why you have a lot of that when you're trying to push things back uphill.
Yeah. So that's our mission here. That's our mission to labs and everybody out here. So you got to start breaking these resistances and then accumulating alongside them. We don't want to see these huge, big dildos because it's just going to backfire, right? Basically, we have to build it like a fucking pyramid, okay?
And I mean, sometimes, people love to reference how many times I say Yankee in a show. But,
he's our third co-host.
Yeah, as Yankee would probably tell you, I mean, sometimes a candle like that can actually spark, that kind of movement again.
Mm-hmm.
But I would just, like I said, in this situation, I would imagine that, any major pumps are going to, any major pumps are going to probably get eaten for a little bit, or, sold on a good bit. Control says breaking even sounds great at this point.
Yeah. Baldson says we need more buys and no sells. Hope that strat helps. If we can orchestrate that, I'd love to see it, dude.
Yeah, it's like my favorite X poster reply that you get a million times, which is, if people would just buy the token, then the price would go up. If people just buy the token and don't sell, the price will go up.
Yeah, we all just hold in, don't ever sell. Do we want to talk about the big news story for today on the Sonic ecosystem?
Yeah.
Are we ready?
Why don't you throw that up? Why don't we get into it?
All right, I'll puke this up on the screen here. We got a Beets proposal here. They've submitted a governance proposal on Sonic to address losses from the balancer composable stable pool exploit. The proposal reallocates 27 million S from the remaining airdrop budget to LPs in the staked S, wrapped OS, wrapped S Beets V2 pools calibrated to the scale of the impact. If approved, distributions will be made as locked Aave boosted wrapped S staked S positions with a 2-year cliff. This approach aims to reinforce long-term Sonic liquidity rather than add sell pressure. To further align Beets with Sonic over the long term, Beets commits to burning S equal to 10% of protocol revenue generated on Sonic over 2 years, allocating 10% of the Beets treasury at the time of passing to acquire and hold S over 2 years, funding all development and audits required for implementation. This proposal is an important step towards restitution and long-term network resilience. Okay, so then they have more details here on the full proposal. Now, What do we think about that? Just off the rip, bro. Off the rip. Okay. Let me try and summarize this again. Make sure I got this right. Okay. So they want to take the remaining airdrop budget. They're requesting Beets is requesting the remaining airdrop budget from Sonic Labs, right? To make people whole for the exploit on Balancer that drained the staked S, wrapped S, and the wrapped OS and wrapped S Beets V2 pools, right? And the distributions will be made as locked Aave boosted wrapped S. So it's just like giving them new positions, new LP positions, and they're locked. And Beets is going to try and pay this back with 10% of revenue over 2 years, and 10% of their treasury has to hold S for 2 years. And they have to fund all development and audits required for implementation. All right, what do we think about this, guys? So let's. I mean, we got some comments to mention, some things, but what do you think, Drek?
I don't know. I'm still kind of taking it in. This just came out like, what, 20, 30 minutes before we started the stream, maybe an hour. So I guess you have to look at precedent sometimes. Like, there have been chains before that have, had funds for this kind of stuff, and hasn't been like an unusual thing. In the case of Sonic, I think what you're having some uproar about is that there have been other hacks and other things over the course of time, over like the existence of the network, and they haven't necessarily, gotten a bailout, so to speak. But I think from Sonic's perspective, they're looking at it from the lens, or I say Sonic, I mean, Beets proposed this, but if you're going to look at it as, maybe this gets passed through and approved, I think maybe you're looking at it through the lens of like, okay, like STS, probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest product on the network. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I wouldn't be surprised. Probably in terms of exploits, the largest number of users that have been affected by any of these on the network. I'm not saying that like, oh, just because of this, you should have, not tried to help any other exploits or whatever. But I can see both sides of it kind of. I'm still kind of conflicted on like what would I like want to do in that situation. But I can see both sides of it. And I do think, it's good that there's something in the plan about basically like kind of paying this loan back. To my knowledge, I think the Aave STS pool, the lending and the looping and everything, it was kind of like everybody got kind of messed up from this exploit. And so, you're putting liquidity back into the Aave pool, so that's important also for the eco. But we're also talking about tokens from the airdrop campaign that have been clawed back that, they're not like necessarily hitting the market because, it is like a 2-year lock. But it is like, that's a lot of tokens, So
yeah, I guess, is it fair to think of this as if it's like, oh, it's like paying the Beets team or anything like that, because it is locked and it's locked as liquidity. So it's like it's like working capital. So it's not actually going to hit the market. It's just going to deepen liquidity on like assets that are kind of paired anyway, S and staked S, OS and wrapped S. So it kind of just puts more S, which I think there could be an argument made that part of the problem with a lot of the sharp price action we've been experiencing in Sonic is like, well, I mean, these aren't paired with USDC or anything, but there is kind of a thinness in the order books in general. But yeah, I think the thing that would really make me kind of more open, I guess, to this proposal would be some kind of numbers. If we were to do an analysis, right? Like, what would be the impact of just burning this? Does that even do anything? Probably not, because it's not on the market yet. What would be a better use of this S? We have some people saying, like, we got Elapse here saying, imagine what 27 million S could do for the wider ecosystem instead. Be curious to see what other ideas people have for 27 million S in the wider ecosystem. And another, what do you call it? Incentive program, or what do you have in mind?
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at, I think there's a figure here somewhere. I don't think that's necessarily the remaining S that was in the airdrop fund.
It's like a portion of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably like 30%. I think I was looking through the proposal. I couldn't see the number, but winding down Kaido early, winding down the airdrop program, it clawed back a decent amount of tokens.
There were 92 million tokens allocated for the original airdrop. So this is like, about just over a quarter, probably about 30%.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't have like a super strong position on it yet, but I think that would it be nice to also run out some kind of incentive program with the remaining funds? I think so. That's been discussed a good bit. I feel like maybe the compromise is if this got pushed through governance, you also roll out some kind of ecosystem initiative dash, at least if it's not like a long-term thing, maybe at least a month. I don't know. But we also return to something that we see a lot on the timeline, which is a lot of projects. Often, there's been a lot of infighting about people choosing, favorites and this and that. I think that when it comes to things like decentralization, I think some people care more about like, hey, nobody should be doing anything about this. Everybody should be figuring it out on their own. But yeah, I mean, I also see that, like I said, it's probably, I don't know how many, like the percent of users on the network it would affect, but it's probably significant, in terms of people affected, money lost, everything else. But, so I think maybe it's like hoping to restore some of that goodwill.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, has any other, I guess everybody's kind of like taken aback because it's just like, has any other protocol done like a proposal like this? But I guess anybody could theoretically, right? I mean, if they had a hack or whatever. So
yeah, I'd be interested to see additional proposals come out from the community, kind of like counter, like, well, okay, here's one solution. How about another? Here's what I want to see happen, right? Because it is theoretically possible, right? Have you ever submitted a governance proposal, Dracula? I've done it before in different smaller governance forums. I've never done it on the big one, dude. Wait, I've just got a photo from someone.
not on the big stage.
Oh, I got a very important TG message from Robert Smith, who sent me a link and says, please click the link.
Singer of The Cure.
Yeah, the guy from The Cure is trying to fucking drain my wallet, dude. No, but there's a couple of questions or comments here I want to bring up here. So I might be wrong. I might be stupid. Everyone knows I'm pretty stupid in crypto here. But like, so when we say 27 million in buybacks free life into the broader ecosystem, am I wrong? But like, because it's S, like, what would they be if they're buying USDC with S? Wouldn't that be like dumping it? Like, what could they buy back? Buy Beets with S, maybe?
Yeah, I think
Goggles with S?
people are talking about like in terms of like, okay, like you could pump some of the eco tokens with that. But
Yeah, this is saying Goggles should also submit a proposal for 27 million.
Good idea.
I think probably part of their pitch for this is that it is kind of like liquidity for staked S. It's primarily like their why we the sun is like setting, dude, at like 1 in the afternoon.
Yeah, I love that. You're gonna have to get some curtains, man.
Dude, yeah, I got to get
in the new spot. Yeah,
stronger than the sun. Anyway, so yeah, so that makes sense to me. But again, I do think what I would like to see is like additional proposals that are a bit more serious from the community and counterpoints, because I think unfortunately what happens if you strongly disagree with this, but you don't provide any kind of strong alternative, like, what are people going to pick, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think like I said earlier, you could be like in a position where you say, okay, like we're going to do this, and then we're also going to find something to incentivize the eco with some of the remaining tokens. Yeah, I mean, just because there's one proposal doesn't mean like, oh, there can't be like a counter in a way. So yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see what happens. Now, I will say this for those that haven't seen it. I think they have already said that there will be no labs affiliated wallets voting or that kind of stuff. So hopefully it is like, truly like, the will, I guess, of the users. And so I don't know. It's like we'll see what happens. But when does it end? Curious. Let me look real fast. So it's open until.
Yeah, we've got some comments here. We've got some comments that I would say are funny, like trolls, and we have some pretty serious ones here. Again, this came out 30 minutes before the stream, so I was messing with like my audio for most of it. So I haven't had a chance to. I had a chance to pretty much read the proposal, but I didn't get a chance to go. I'm looking at these comments for the first time, but we have some good counter points here. We got 24 weighing in. 24 friend of the show. He's voting to reject. He appreciates the intent behind helping users impacted by the balance or V2 exploit, but this proposal ultimately misallocates community resources and sets a harmful precedent. A large portion of impacted funds belong to Sonic Labs team wallets and affiliated entities, he says. This effectively becomes an internal reimbursement rather than the true community relief. Using the airdrop budget was meant to incentivize network growth and distribution to offset internal exposures misaligned with the purpose of the allocation. It's unreasonable to ask the broader community to cover a DEX layer failure. The vulnerability is not specific to Sonic, but Beets implementation. Reimbursing these losses with Sonic airdrop funds effectively socializes costs created by another protocol's architectural choices. That's a precedent we should not set. Responsibility lies with the parties who designed, operate, and approve the pool architecture, not with the Sonic network participants. Calling for Sonic's ecosystem funds to make LPs whole feels like shifting accountability rather than addressing the root issue. And finally, the remaining airdrop budget still has meaningful value for long-term user acquisition. Redirecting 27 million S to cover an external operational failure provides no network level ROI and weakens future strategic distribution. Yeah, so he strongly rejects it. I think that's probably the most well-articulated response I've seen so far in terms of thoughts and feelings on it. So that's why I read it. I'm trying to find. Well, we have one other point I want to read before we move on. I just want to give you guys a kind of a general idea of both sides of this argument as it's been presented. We've got the proposal. We've got one guy strongly opposed, one guy in favor, and his name is just Sonic. So I don't know if this is a guy who just loves Sonic or if it's actually from the labs, but in favor of this proposal, the airdrop was an experiment that despite best efforts failed to gain any meaningful traction. The TVL expansion on Sonic and subsequent decline is evident of mercenary capital coming into the ecosystem and with the sole purpose to farm and dump S. This was net negative to the ecosystem. Relocating S to recover Beets victim losses is a net positive to the ecosystem. Beets are one of the longest standing protocols on Phantom and now Sonic, and the same applies to its user base. Many community members have been deeply impacted by the exploit on Beets. So there you go, dude. You basically have, I think strong arguments on both sides for, community support, but there is the argument of precedent, right?
Yeah.
I would be interested in saying, if you were going to do this, I feel like by necessity, you maybe even need to earmark the rest of the funds as, say, like a community insurance fund or something.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people would probably be okay with that if you established that those funds were for something like that. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm interested to see what happens. I can see both sides of it. I guess it's just complicated because this all even kind of comes back to when the hack happened and the wallet freeze and all this kind of stuff. So it's like you've already had some form of intervention, but yeah, I feel like digesting what 24 wrote there. I think that's probably more the way I would lean, but I think that maybe there could be a good counter proposed that helps make those people whole, but also has like some ROI for the ecosystem too.
Yeah, I think that's probably the thing that's really missing from this. Probably the most strongly, I think that's why there's such a strong reaction from the community is it's not particularly clear what the benefit is to everyone else when the funds were earmarked for in general, everyone, right? It was supposed to be a kind of a pot anyone could win from, and now it's being funneled to one group. But again, it's almost like it feels like they're trying to build the argument this is like critical LPs to the ecosystem. Again, I want to see some numbers. I want to see someone crank some numbers. Maybe then we can start talking for real, as opposed to just talk about our feelings, you know?
Yeah, no. Yeah, I think that's kind of where it is right now for me, is just, I think there probably has to be a little bit of work done on the proposal. You know, when the funds are kind of like earmarked for ecosystem, kind of like incentives. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, there are things that it could help restore some balance on and make some, you know, who knows how many who knows how many users the network lost after this exploit. But yeah, like I said, it's just kind of like it's a slippery slope, you know, and you do this once, and then what happens when something else happens and you don't bail them out? And yeah, I mean, it's a lot to weigh.
Yeah, it's putting them on the hook for a lot of things further down the line that they may not be able to back up, right? Again, precedent being set could be dangerous for the future. And perhaps, again, I guess in summary, these are the counter arguments for the proposal. Dangerous precedent being set, and two, may not have the resources are likely better spent elsewhere in the ecosystem or in the whole fucking network to try and make things a little bit more active, right? Because at the end of the day, who cares if these pools exist and they've got deep liquidity if no one is using them? So that's it for that one. Okay. I think it was a good conversation.
We'll probably talk about it some more, you know, as this goes on. I couldn't find like a definitive date. I mean, I don't know if does this have to like go through a process before it actually makes it to like the main stage? Like, what is maybe someone in the comments knows like what the protocol actually is for, you know, this is being proposed, but what puts it to actual vote from here?
Yeah, I can't log into my thing right now, but I'm pretty sure it has to get a certain number of like a certain amount of support, and then it gets pushed to actual vote. But we'll see. But that's not the only thing happening. Wise, should we talk about a rumor that's been circulating, or should we talk about this post from the Bear Chain guys? It's very long. It's like, dude, it's like
they write very long posts over there.
A 10,000 word post.
I'll let you choose here, as we probably got time for like one more segment. So,
all right. So there's a rumor going around. Okay, on Telegram. The best source I have for this is a Telegram bio that says that this guy is the rumor. Is this guy Elapse or is this? I'm confused. Anyway, he's got the same picture. It's got to be. Anyway, rumor. Yeah. So there, Yankee, my number one top researcher. He's posted a Telegram screenshot of a bio. Let me see if I have the actual image here, because I got it like mid-show.
We're talking allegedly here.
Yeah, allegedly there have been accusations made. Here we go. Whatever, fuck it. You just have to take my word for it. This guy's Telegram handle says he's the new VP BD or head of BD for Sonic Labs, and it's this guy right here. Okay, here's his Twitter. I apologize if this is not you, or if I'm not supposed to say this right now, but look, the community's talking. I got to talk about it. Okay. Captain Owens, he's a crypto BD. He worked at Kadena, Flipside, Steel DAO, Pogo Seat, and the New York Stock Exchange. So before we get into like more details on each of those, I kind of wanted to, you know, show this because he has a LinkedIn. He has his resume on LinkedIn, so we can go through it and we can decide whether or not you think he's a good hire or not. Okay.
I think we did discuss that the first thing we need to do is actually verify if he has a boat.
Oh yeah. We got to figure out if he's actually a sailboat captain.
Yeah.
I'm also want to know, sound off in the comments, is it bullish or bearish if your BD is a sailboat captain? I think it's bullish. People love to go out on a boat. No better way to get a business deal done than to take someone out into uncharted waters alone and, you know, just see how the cards fall, you know. Oh no, he's a sailboat captain who worked for Harry Ye. Things you must have seen, dude.
I don't think that's true.
Yeah, I feel like that's doubtful. I don't think you'd catch Harry Ye on a sailboat ever. He wants to be on a yacht only. But let's see here. What else did I have? Oh, yeah. This is what I had next. His resume. We've got his resume. We don't often get to look through a resume live on stream, so I kind of want to take a quick look. He's a goal-oriented leader with expertise in strategic partnerships, ecosystem development, enterprise deal negotiation, driving growth across DeFi and blockchain sectors, proven track record in team leadership, and optimizing operations for revenue growth. So let's look at where he's been before. Top of the list, and this is kind of the thing I think that's got everyone the most nervous, is you can hear me, right?
Okay. Yeah, I got you.
StreamYard just gave me a notification for something. VP of Business Development at Kadena. He led the ecosystem expansion for Kadena. Launched in 2020. He was there for 1 year, just about. And he directed a $50 million grants program across DeFi, RWAs, infrastructure, and chain web EVM deployments, 5 times jump in testnet volume. Closed 80 plus protocol integrations, including Layer Zero, Sushi, Anchor, Stork, Euler, Morpho, and Allium. Scaled user base by 10 times through ecosystem partnerships and event strategy. He rebuilt BD and ops process, cutting close time by 3 times and establishing a GTM playbook. Partnered with top tier VCs, sourcing and reviewing 200 plus projects for funding and integration. That's sterling God, dude. That's beautiful, isn't it? I'm going to take notes for my own resume. But yeah, okay, so that's his most recent and probably relevant experience here. But he's also got experience with Flipside Crypto. I'm not super familiar with Flipside Crypto. What's this? DAOs, VCs, and an investment group. So he's been an advisor. He worked at Enigma Capital and Pogo Seat. He's got a BA in philosophy from the University of San Diego. So he's a word cell, just like me. So let's talk a little bit more about probably the things that are raising the most hairs. One, I don't see New York Stock Exchange on here. It's in his bio, but it's not here. Maybe he just likes it. But the other thing here is Kadena. Now, do we all know the story of Kadena?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, from what I know off the top of my head, Kadena had its own kind of like smart contract language or something like that. Interesting concept. And essentially, the controversy with the chain would be that they kind of just like boarded up the windows like overnight. They just kind of came out with no warning. This was, I guess, a couple months ago. Came out with like no warning and just said, "Hey guys, thanks for the good times. We're out of here," which is pretty unprecedented, I think, in terms of infrastructure. Even very low volume, like, I don't know, people just tend to keep the lights on because you don't see this often, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Volatility brings up a good point here. They were like, it was extremely sudden, and it'll come across very clearly when I scroll through the TL here. But real quick, I wanted to address this. How are we supposed to say it? And it's not Kadena in Spanish, to say Kadena. Kadena mi esposas.
But it's spelled with a K.
Yeah, so it's American. Stinky.
So I'm saying Kadena.
Kadena, by the way.
Kadena.
Yeah, so let's tackle this one bit at a time here. So let's go back through the Kadena story. Just like Drac was saying, I had a nice little summary Double Sharp gave me from Google AI about what happened to Kadena. And Kadena has had some similar problems to Sonic, but also some very different ones that were very significant. One being the programming language that you have to use to write for Kadena. They were trying to do the Sol thing, the Solana thing, I'm sure, right? But
they had a name for it. Let me see if I can find it real fast. Because when I say this, I mean, I say like, I think it was literally just on their chain.
It was literally just there.
Yeah, it was called Pact. And it was like, I don't know a lot about it because I've never seen it. I never played around with it. But the quick description is that it's a smart contract language, which is designed for safety and simplicity. So maybe in a way it is more like a move or I don't know, whatever. But yeah, I mean, definitely like some like niche stuff that can go. I mean, as we've seen, it's like slowly but surely there have been other languages that have, kind of been able to like take a foothold in crypto, but it's pretty difficult to get away from actual EVM smart contracts.
Yeah, especially when that's all where all the money is and all the experience is. So if you want people to come over, you have to train them fresh. And there's, it's just the classic difficulties with that. Real quick, I wanted to pull up this here. Article shuts down just to highlight a 77% crash and cash burn into one of crypto's most ambitious projects. So founded by JP Morgan executives, but it failed. Primarily, it seems like economically it failed in that the price crash destroyed it. They probably had not enough cash on hand, and that was just a wrap for them. But when we talk about how sudden this was, this is crazy. One, this is something people joke about a lot, but it's like they literally did a community takeover for the network, dude. They CTO'd the whole entire network. But you see here, they announced on October 21st that they're, ceasing operations. But the day before, they have a hackathon at ETH Global. And also, they were doing a creator sponsored event where they were paying people and shit. So it was extremely sudden, extremely scary. And I think that's causing a lot of anxieties for Sonic users because they're holy shit, dude,
But I can say this, optics wise, that could freak some people out. But in terms of resume and everything else, looks like pretty normal BD stuff. Has obviously rubbed elbows with a lot of big projects and protocols. Also, I mean, I don't mean to blow a raspberry here, but what I was going to say is that BD is just kind of one element of operating a chain. So
yeah, and I would imagine
just to give a little hopium here. I mean, there's 1,000 other things that could have contributed to this, and BD could have been totally fine and solid. So I'm kind of in the camp of I'm very neutral today. I don't have very strong feelings about anything. I'm willing to, we should see before we all just, pounce and attack and troll and everything else. I don't know. Maybe we should just see how it goes first. It would maybe, it may be different if it was the new CEO or I don't know, something like that. But I think for someone in biz dev, it sounds like from his resume and his credentials that he's got real crypto experience. So,
dude, here's what I think as a perfect diamond level triple S genius. Okay, so this is the correct answer, the correct way to think about this. Okay, it's this. Kadena failed, but probably not because of BD issues. It sounds like, they had a lot of problems. Okay, they had a lot of problems. And now this guy that we're talking about here, right? Who's VP of BD, he was making all kinds of deals. If he was closing all these deals, he did all this stuff for Kadena, and it was so difficult because they're using this stupid programming language that no one wants to use. It's hard to get there. JP Morgan's involved, so it's probably all kinds of, whatever going on. I think it's kind of bullish, dude, because think about this. Typically, you leave your BD role in a company. Yeah, you bring some clients over, you bring some connections over, but you can't really just straight up cannibalize the former company you were at, right? You can't just gouge them out. That company doesn't even exist anymore, dude. He could bring us all the Kadena users, all the Kadena devs, all 54 of them, dude. And then we start to cook, bro. Tell me about it, bro. He needs to come on GMSONIC so you can get a feel for who he is. I want him to come on GMSONIC to try and sell me on Sonic, dude. So my next project, Yeah,
it's kind of like the sell me this pen. It's like you have to come on here and sell Sonic, and if you can't, you gotta resign. But
dude, if you can't make Elapse buy Sonic at 11 cents,
yeah,
this ain't the role for you, brother.
Yeah, we want to see what we want to see what your plan is on that. Yeah, D-Not says 2 worthless clowns. I didn't get a wig, so I should have got one for today.
Nah, yeah, we're buccaneers of a sinking ship. I mean, that's not how I see it, but fair enough. Anyway, my point is this, dude. I at least give him a little bit of time to cook, and if not, I mean, what do you want, dude? At least shit's happening.
at least it's just not friend of a friend that's kind of done something once. I mean, they did an actual hire here. So
yeah,
and I think there's, from what I know, there's, several more to come. So
yeah, for sure. I've seen a lot worse hires in the crypto space. I think he's got the experience. And I think also particularly when you look at crypto projects in general, just overall, there's plenty of talented people that were on projects that have failed or shut down. You're not just completely tainted just because, this multifaceted business that you're running, 3 other people let you down.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we're pretty much out of time today. Yankee just asked, do we have any word about what Sonic did in London? I haven't seen anything yet, but I imagine on Tuesday we'll have, or not Tuesday, on Friday, we'll hopefully have some stuff to talk about from that. I think that's like ongoing today. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all we have right now. Make sure you join the Telegram. Go to our X. You can find the link to the Telegram there. Always stuff going on in there. Always a good time. Entertainment, all that stuff. So join us there. And as always, thanks for hanging out. Sorry for the technical issues. We don't know what was going on with X today, but it seems like they got it straightened out about halfway through. So we might have to like redo the bailout talk all over again. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Oh yeah. Yeah, be sure to join that GMSONIC Telegram. But you gotta have thick skin, dude. They might tear you apart in there. But it's the happiest place on earth at the same time. So yeah, we'll catch you guys later this week. We'll probably have a super special episode this Friday, so stay tuned. And yeah, stay cool out there, guys. We'll see you around.
We'll see you later.
GMSONIC is Corval and Dracula Presley. GM.